Welcome, everyone, to Off the Cuff. I am Adam Banks. Thank you for listening to the show. And this is the post-championship game show where we are here to discuss the 2016 NCAA men's basketball tournament. And happy to be joined by my professional sports panel, Zach Hahn, Jordan Conaster, and Chad Rainwater. Guys, how's it going?
Well, I mean, you said we're professionals. I mean, we're getting paid for this?
Well, you know, the checks, it's in the mail. I've already cut your check, so
I'll keep an eye out for it.
Keep your bank accounts there on your favorites and on your computer, and you'll be able to pull it up. But you know, I love sports, and every sport has its own big shindig at the end of it. You know, the NBA has the playoffs, college basketball has March Madness. But wrestling has WrestleMania, and Chad, you and I watched WrestleMania last Sunday, man, and, you know, we both watched it back in the glory days of wrestling, and the Attitude Era, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, and we watched WrestleMania for the first time in years. Now, what did you think of the show?
We did, you know, it was pretty entertaining. It's not as good as it had been in the past. I mean, wrestling dropped off, at least for me, it dropped off in the early 2000s, but I mean, it was fun. It was entertaining. Some good matches.
The Shane McMahon versus the Undertaker match, when Shane McMahon jumped off the cage, that was
probably the biggest spot of WrestleMania, was Shane McMahon jumping off the cage.
Yeah, I can't believe that he's 46 years old. He's got gray hair. His nipples are hard.
He's still in good shape though.
Yeah,
he can put on a good match.
Yeah,
it was all right for Undertaker's a little old. He's done. He was worn out 2 minutes into the match, and it was such a slow match, but other than that, it was all right.
It's kind of sad, though, that they got to bring back the old guys to get a big rise out of people like us. You know, they had to bring back Stone Cold, The Rock, Shawn Michaels.
Oh, no.
That was the most entertaining part of the show.
Yeah, it was 6 or 7 of the greatest wrestlers, in my opinion, that showed up on the show. If they didn't have those guys, there was no way that this would get good ratings at all.
But The Undertaker ended up beating Shane, and then Triple H headlined WrestleMania. This was like his 8th WrestleMania headline. He's wrestled like at 8 main events at WrestleMania.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like you said, they had to bring a big guy in to be in the main event, and Triple H was the guy this year. And I didn't expect him to get beat, but...
Well, if we want to add our other panel in for the show, we got to talk about a team that is partying like it's 1985, because this team hasn't won since 1985. The Villanova Wildcats is the 2016 NCAA champions. They defeated the North Carolina Tar Heels. Like I said, they haven't won since 1985. Do you guys know the arena that they won their first championship in?
Rupp Arena.
That is right.
I didn't have a guess, so.
I didn't have a guess either.
Home of the Kentucky Wildcats, they defeated Georgetown. That was the only time Rupp Arena has held the NCAA championship game, I guess, because it only holds about 24,000 people, and now college basketball it's drawn such a big crowd they only want to hold it in venues that are holding at least 50,000 people.
I saw the game last night was holding like 74,000 people in it, and I had no clue. I saw that, I was expecting, a solid 25,000, but I had no clue the magnitude they had got to with 75,000 people in a game.
Houston, what is the arena in Houston?
I guess they were playing where the
Texans play. But I can't imagine that those were, good seats up there in the upper deck. I mean, it's a football stadium. How can you possibly see anything?
Yeah, I saw a picture on Twitter today. It was the worst seat in the stadium, and it was pretty far up there.
Yeah, it really is. Well, let's talk about let's review the Final Four. We only got 4 teams to talk about. Let's talk about the Oklahoma versus Villanova game. Now, a lot of people, I said that Oklahoma and Villanova, the winner of that game was going to be the 2016 champions. And I was right. So Oklahoma was a team that went out. Buddy Hield, projected to go number 3 in a lot of the draft boards. He was anybody shocked to see Oklahoma lose to Villanova?
I was shocked. I thought Oklahoma honestly had probably, the best team in the nation. They had Buddy Hield, if he was firing hot, then he was firing hot and he led the team, and if he wasn't, they had some good pieces around him, to be able to do stuff. That Latin kid's really good in the middle. But I thought it was going to be a real good game from the get-go. Buddy Hield comes out, hits the first basket of the game, hits a 3, and I just looked, hey, this is the way the game's going to go. Oklahoma's going to come out shooting hot, and nothing after that. And that was just, it was kind of, you lose interest in the second half, because what did it end up being, like a 40-point game at one point?
I was going to say, Jordan, like the game was a 44-point game. I mean, the final score was 95-51. I did not see that coming. I thought Oklahoma would at least give them a little bit of a game.
I mean, Oklahoma had played, Kansas twice this year. They had to play West Virginia twice this year. And those were, both solid teams. Kansas was the number 1 overall seed going into the tournament. It's not like they had a bad team at all. And, Oklahoma I think they beat both of them once and lost once. And, between those two teams, those are some of the best teams in the nation. And I had no clue. I hadn't really watched Villanova much this year, and I didn't know. They came out and just shocked me, and it was almost embarrassing for Oklahoma to have that done to them.
When the team shoots 71% for the game, it's kind of hard to do anything. Oklahoma only shot 31%. They held Buddy Hield to 9 points. When your leading scorers only scored 9, you can't really do much. They put up 51 points. Villanova just got hot at the right time. Like a couple years ago when UConn was the team, I feel like that was the same thing with this. Yeah, Villanova might have been a little bit better, but they were just getting hot at the right time.
And, and then Villanova advances to the championship game. North Carolina and Syracuse was the other Final Four matchup. And Jim Boeheim, he led his Boeheim, whatever his name is.
I called him Boeheim in the last podcast.
Yeah, Coach Jimmy
Jimmy
B. Yeah. Now that was a team I just was shocked altogether to see in the final.
I think we all were because remember on the first.
They had a really, really easy path to get there. I mean, their win over Virginia was really the only surprising victory that they had. I mean, they beat Dayton, Middle Tennessee State, and of course, if Middle Tennessee State had shot like they did when they beat Michigan State, well, then that would have been a tough game. But they kind of just got hot for that one game against Tom Izzo and the Spartans. Gonzaga after that, and then they finally did beat Virginia to kind of earn their way into the Final Four. But that was definitely the easiest path of any of the 4 teams that we saw play this weekend to get there.
I thought Syracuse was one of the teams that shouldn't have made the tournament. In the first podcast we did for the NCAA tournament,
we all said that. Yep,
I was wrong. Yeah, I think they lost, but I still think Syracuse gave North Carolina a game that was, I don't think it ever got over 7 points in the first half.
I mean,
Syracuse had a lead several times. They stuck with them in the second half. North Carolina, up in the teens is what they beat them by. They played them a good game. North Carolina's got a real good team, but
you got to look at it like going into March, going into the tournament. Everybody's 0-0 the record. Mm-hmm. Everybody's undefeated. Everybody goes in with that clean slate. And Syracuse is that backs up my evidence with that. They went in with the most unfavored team in the entire tournament. Everybody was shocked to see them in, and then they make it to the Final Four, and they end up they end up losing though to North Carolina 83-66. So it brings us to our championship game, the Villanova Wildcats versus the North Carolina Tar Heels. And North Carolina, if they would have won, this would have been their 7th national title. 6th or 7th. Would it have been?
I believe it was a 6th. It would have been the 6th.
They've only won 5?
I'm pretty sure they've only won 5.
I know Roy that would have been Roy's 3rd here. I think it was 6th. I heard that yesterday.
Well, what was crazy is the matchup was close all the way throughout the game. The score was just going back and forth. And then North Carolina comes up and shoots that crazy shot. Who was the player that shot?
Marcus Page with that. Yeah, that was
off balance shot. Lucky.
Just pump it back down, and that was a crazy lucky 3-pointer, but it worked out. And then heck, they come right back down the court, and with 0.5 seconds to go, gets it out of his hands. Watkins, and then I'm 25 years old, and that was the best championship game I've ever seen.
Well, yeah. See, I like to see when Marcus Page made that shot. And there was only 4 seconds left in the game. A lot of people was like, okay, we're going into halftime. Well, not me. I was like, not halftime, but we're going into overtime. And I was like, not me. 4 seconds is a long time in basketball. And I like watching what the players are doing in the last 4 seconds, what the coaches are doing in the last 4 seconds, because that's when you really can see what the coaches are made out of. And Jay Wright, he really pulled it together. He put together a fabulous little play. I don't know why North Carolina wasn't playing zone on their defense. They were just kind of befuddled. I think they really was banking on them to miss that shot. But Chris Jenkins hit that 3-pointer at the buzzer.
Well, that wasn't, from North Carolina's perspective, that's really not a terrible. besides the fact that he was a little unguarded, he was able to spot up. I mean, getting to Jenkins, I mean, he was way back there. That wasn't the worst shot you can give up. I mean, you saw it on a lot of the North Carolina fans' faces after the game was over. I mean, they were shocked, but there wasn't outrage. A guy that hits a shot like that, what are you going to do? I mean,
yeah, he was a solid 6 feet behind the line.
Yeah,
so,
that's maybe get it a little bit closer up on him, but that's a tough shot to sink. I mean, he's going to hit that maybe 15%.
And Villanova is just loaded with talent. I mean, they had Daniel Ochefu. Is that his name? Number 23.
Well, it looks like Ochefu.
Ochefu. I mean, I butcher names every time I try to say them. If you guys want to chime in and give me the correct name,
I didn't want to take a shot at it, so I'll stick with what you've got.
It's your show. We'll let you be the one to have to take that.
6'11", 245 pounds from Baltimore, Maryland. He has 2 roles basically on defense. He just stands there under the goal, and he looks for the ball to come his way to dunk it in. Or his other role is just to go up and set a pick for the point guard, Ryan Archidinakio. Does nobody have last names like Banks anymore?
they do have they have a Josh Hart, but that's only the most common name I see on here. They have a Booth and a Bridges, but
I don't know. Speaking of Booth, man, the Booth was one of their. He had a hell of a game for him last night. Every time that North Carolina looked like they were going to make a run, they would go up 5 or 7, and Booth would come out and just something. North Carolina, they played amazing defense the entire game, in my opinion. They were right up on everybody the entire time, and then every time it seemed like Booth was getting guarded by like 3 people, put up a crazy shot, and he made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Booth shot 7 shots, only missed 1. Put up 20 points. He was huge in that game last night.
Well, when North Carolina lost, as awesome as it was and as great as it was to see North Carolina lose in that fashion, I cannot imagine being a North Carolina fan. But imagine being those players and Roy Williams, being that close, 4 seconds away of going into overtime. You're 4 seconds away of just getting another 5 minutes to play, and you lose. You don't really know what to do, and the only thing you can do is just go shake everybody's hand.
And it's got to be hard for them because their entire team, it was their last go around for a little while, in my opinion. They got Bryce Johnson's a senior, Marcus Page is a senior, Kennedy Meeks is a junior. He's coming back, and those are their 3 key players. And you're losing 2 of them to the NBA, and they don't have an option to come back next year. So North Carolina's going to kind of have to reload, and we'll see what they got. But I do. It's a bad situation to be the players, but the thing you got to think about how you got to feel being a Villanova Wildcat waking up this morning, fan or player. That's got to be great.
Chris Jenkins is, without a doubt, the most popular athlete in sports right now. Do you think he has improved his draft stock any?
I'm not going to say by one shot he's improved his draft stock at all.
No, because I have to disagree with you because March Madness is the stage. That's where you want to perform, and you see coaches who do bad the entire season, and then they show up in the tournament, and then you see them going to a bigger school. Why can't that be the same way for players?
Well, if nobody ever knew, it's got to help them a little bit because if you're a scout or whatever and you didn't know who Chris Jenkins was, you know who he is now.
You know who he is now. He's.
Everybody who watches basketball or sports knows who he is now. So.
Yeah, but NBA scouts, they get paid to do nothing but watch basketball all day. If they've got 1,000 clips of Jenkins, one shot's not going to overrule that. Whatever they're seeing on the film of all the other plays, and I just don't see that one shot that like I said. 9 times out of 10 doesn't go in. I don't see that improving somebody's draft stock. If they pick him, it'll just simply be for ticket sales or something other than actual, ability based on that shot.
If everything was on big shots, Aaron Harrison should have been the number 1 draft pick last year.
Yeah, we came into ACDC's Big Balls, and that would have been very suitable for the 2015 year when Aaron Harrison, or the 2014 year, I guess it was, that Aaron Harrison made both of those shots in the Elite Eight. And the final, was it the Final Four? It was
the Sweet 16 in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, talk about clutch shots. But so, did anybody get a chance to watch the post-game interviews with Roy Williams, or the post-game interviews with Jay Wright?
I didn't watch them. I watched the confetti come out, and I watched the players celebrate for a minute. But at that point, that's the basketball's over, and the rest of it's just talk. And I'm not really interested unless it's Kentucky. So,
but people, the Villanova Wildcats, they something that just irritated me. They were like, "Oh, North Carolina, they're a very respectable team. We're glad we got to defeat them." Shut up. Don't talk about North Carolina being a respectable team. Don't even talk about North Carolina. You are the champions. You don't need to talk about another team. You don't need to give them praise. You are the champions. Act like a champion.
But man, one thing that did surprise me about North Carolina, I never saw North Carolina as a team just respectable. I thought North Carolina was just a bunch of young punks, and I've always thought that about them. But they weren't. It wasn't a bunch of crybabies after the game. Bryce Johnson and Marcus Page and Meeks and the entire bench pretty much got up. Of course they were upset, but they were willing to go shake the hand of the other team, congratulate them, and I honestly think that was very good sportsmanship after the game from the Tar Heels.
So that wraps up college basketball. Villanova Wildcats is the 2016 champions. College basketball as a whole, Zach, what do you think of just college basketball as a whole this year? What do you think about it?
I think it's on the way down. I've been waiting for you to give me an opportunity to get that. I think college basketball is hurting more and more each year.
Could you elaborate on that, what you mean by that?
Well, I just think if you look at where college basketball was historically, in the 90s, even in the early 2000s, I think that compared to other sports, it's struggling, and it makes you wonder where it will be in another 10 years if things don't change.
Do you think that the one and done is killing college basketball? Are you upset that they're not 4-year players on the court? Do you think that's the biggest problem?
I think that is the biggest problem, but I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. Obviously the one and done is out of the control of the NCAA. That's the NBA's role. But no matter who's pulling the strings, I think the one and done has definitely transformed college basketball from being something about school spirit, and you had 4-year players and things like that, and now it almost just feels like minor league NBA basketball.
It really is like the one and done thing. I like the way it's done in football in a way. In college football, the player has to stay until their junior year, then you're eligible to go to the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there should be a rule in college basketball that you do it like that. If you choose that you want to go play college basketball, you have to stay 3 years. Get your education that allows you the time to graduate if you want to focus on your classwork and not go out and party all the time. But if you're a player, a Ben Simmons or something coming out of high school, last year Ben Simmons would have been the number 1 draft pick. If you're there, why not? There's no sense in you going to college.
Well, what you're actually talking about would be closer to the baseball, the way it's set up in baseball, where you can go straight out of high school. But if you choose to accept that scholarship and go to college, then you got to wait 3 years.
Mm-hmm. You
can also see your draft position before you sign the contract as well.
Yeah, but and that's a cool thing to do. But then again, I see the NCAA's point on it, and when you don't want the player to come straight out of high school because you could have some kid that's 6'11", 250 pounds playing against local high schools that he's around and just dominating them. You want to see what he looks like against more talented players that are eligible to go to a D1 NCAA school. And so I understand the NBA's point on wanting to see them play against better talent before they take them as a draft pick, because you don't want to end up with a Sebastian Telfair.
But then why wouldn't the NBA want to see more than just 1 year? Somebody like
They feel
Scal.
like that's a good point. They feel like that 1 year is enough to expose the player on an elite level to see how they're going to play against elite talent. You bring up Scalabiciere.
He's still a huge risk.
Perfect example.
I would like to see another year or two before as an NBA GM I would draft him.
Yeah, and then they're still he started out the season I think as like the number 2 projected draft pick in the NBA, and now they've got him dropped down to between 12 and 20. Yeah. And that's not really moving down that far. It's a decent pay cut for him, but he showed me nothing this year to think that he's a draft pick in the NBA at all. If I'm a GM in the NBA, I'm sorry, but people might call me crazy. I'm not taking Scalabiciere. I'm not taking him until mid to late second round. He's not a talent at this point to me. He can block shots in college, and he can block a couple of games, but he can't rebound. He gets pushed around in the post. I don't want a big man that's just going to stand outside and shoot jumpers all day. I've got to have a big man that can get down in the post and beat and bang. Chris Bosh isn't very big, but he gets down in the post, and he can go up against Dwight Howard or DeMarcus Cousins every single night.
So yeah, what I'm saying is give somebody like that another couple of years in college. It works out for everybody. The college fan gets to have that player at their program. They can become more attached to him. It's not It doesn't have that, minor league feel where they're gone the next year. And the NBA teams, they get to see whether he can develop all those other aspects to his game that you're talking about, and they don't have to pay a dime for it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the NBA draft. That's coming up, and now that college basketball season is officially over, the NBA draft, everybody's got their eyes set on that. Ben Simmons is projected to go number one. The projected team to get the number one pick will be the Philadelphia 76ers. Chad, who do you think, besides Ben, is Ben Simmons going to be your first pick? Do you think he's going to get the number one pick?
Yeah, more than likely I'd say Simmons. If it wasn't Simmons, maybe Buddy Hield, depending on what team gets that first pick. If the Sixers get the first pick and they get Ben Simmons, look at all the other big guys they have. Nerlens Noel, Joel Embiid. Who's the other one missing? Jaleel Okafor.
Yep.
Say, Nerlens, you also say that?
Nerlens Noel, yeah, Nerlens. Three big guys right there. I mean, if you're gonna play Simmons at the 3, I don't know what they're really gonna do. If it was the Sixers, I'd probably take Buddy Hield or Brandon Ingram. But it just depends on who gets that first pick.
Brandon Ingram will be a solid 3 for him, but the kid's got talent. He's going to be an elite player. I think he could. He's definitely flirting with the number 1 pick. If not, I think he's going second. And then you got a mix between, in my opinion, you got a Buddy Hield or a Jamal Murray going at that between 3 and 4 right there, both. But the 76ers, I mean, you said they've got 3 big men. I don't think Joel Embiid's ever going to play. I mean, he gets injured every year.
Yeah.
So
That's right. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's so hilarious how the whole strategy is just tanking has backfired on the Sixers. They got Embiid, who's not going to play, maybe ever. Then, yeah, sure, they might get the first pick this year, but I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I think it's a pretty weak draft overall.
Very weak draft. And the thing about the draft is it's not really the players that get drafted. It's not this player's better than this player's better than this player. It's all about what the team needs. So if the 76ers needs a center, they're not going to draft Ben Simmons first. But, they need a
I think Philadelphia just needs talent. They need something to come in.
Honestly, if you're talking about what player would make Philadelphia a better team right now, I know they're thinking long term still. Murray would be he'd make them, I would say, 10 to 15 wins better just by balance alone.
I think Buddy Hield would as well, but they're never going to leave the triangle offense. So once they decide to do that, they might have a chance. But
I mean, it is a weak draft. People are saying that it's the weakest draft in years. That's why I feel like that. We're all Kentucky fans. We know that a few Kentucky players have already declared for the draft. Jamal Murray, he's a definite lottery pick. Scalaby Sierra, it's questionable whether he'll be a lottery pick. I mean, I think I can with confidence say that will be a bust in the NBA because he all he has is hot.
Right, but for fans of an NBA team, I could see that being. I was talking about ticket sales earlier for taking Jenkins from Villanova. Scal's that kind of guy that he'll be a pretty easy sell to the fans of an NBA team. Maybe somebody like a Utah or something like that they really haven't watched a lot of UK basketball probably. And you're bringing in a guy that's a supposed 7-foot dynamic talent. They'll be able to sell their fans on it and make money at the end of the day. And that's all that some NBA franchises care about.
if I was an NBA team right now, though, and I needed a point guard, and I've got the number 5 pick in the draft, I'm going after Tyler Ulis. Not just because I'm a Kentucky fan, but I think that's one guy that some draft boards, I know Bleacher Report has him in the lottery. I think Tyler Ulis is going to be an elite NBA talent. You got Isaiah Thomas in Boston that's about the same size as Ulis, and he's just killing it. You got, Allen Iverson wasn't much bigger than Ulis, an inch or two? And, that's what Tyler Ulis mimics his game after Allen Iverson, and you can see it in his play. So I think Ulis is, if nobody wants to draft him until the second round, they're getting an elite talent. They're getting a lottery pick talent out of him.
So you're saying that you would take Tyler Ulis over Chris Dunn, a 6'4" point guard from Providence, who can, in the NBA, if you're tall and you had the height and you're a point guard, you can drive and you can shoot. I mean, that's the full package. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Tyler Ulis, but I don't know if I had a high lottery pick and I needed a point guard, I don't know if I would take Tyler Ulis. I think I would have to go with Chris Dunn. Now, that's just me.
I see, in my opinion, and I've watched Chris Dunn play. He's a good shooter. Mm-hmm. He can get in and get rebounds. But there's nobody in college basketball right now that can read a defense. It's like Tyler Eulis knows what's going on before it goes on. He's so court savvy. He's the coach on the floor. He knows, he can run the offense. As you saw in the South Carolina game, Cal got kicked out, and assistant coach, what's his name? Kenny Payne just said, like he said in the post-game conference, he said, I set the team up on defense to do what they needed to do, and Tyler ran the entire offense. From, the 3-minute mark in the game when Calipari got kicked out until the end of the game, Tyler Eulis called every play. He ran the entire offense. Kenny Payne didn't have to do anything with the offense, and Tyler Eulis led the team to a win. He's just – the kid's smart. He knows exactly what he's doing on the court. And if I'm in the NBA, if I'm a GM, I'm willing to take Tyler Eulis in the top 10. Just, you're taking your chances by – a 5'9" point guard, but then, you could have that high reward with it. It's high risk, high reward, and I think he's going to be the reward.
Well, one thing I haven't heard mentioned is like the durability factor. What do you think about that? I mean, how do you think somebody who's, essentially a below average size person, when you look at, all the men in the United States, like how do you think they'll be able to hold up to the 82 game season? I mean, you don't know with anybody, of course, but can you just see somebody like that getting beat up? I mean, is it a risk?
I mean, in the NBA, you're going to get beat up no matter who you are. I mean, but it's not like Tyler Eulis has been playing against, high school kids all year. He's not been playing against...
He's playing against the elite.
5'6" point guards and 5'8" point guards. He's been playing against elite point guards. He's been, it's not like Kentucky's in the Ivy League. We're the SEC. We played, I know Frank Mason from Kansas is a smaller point guard too, but he ate Kansas up. Tyler Eulis can guard anybody. He's a defensive monster. He's just everywhere.
Some draft boards have him going. A lot of draft boards have him going in the first round. This particular draft board that I like, it's NBADraft.net. They have him in the second round going to the Phoenix Suns.
There's no way he'll fall to the second round.
I don't think so either. But if he did go to the Phoenix Suns, that puts Tyler Eulis being the 5th UK player on the Phoenix Suns. That's
all in the front court.
Insane.
Yeah, all in the front court.
That's
backcourt.
If
backcourt.
The Phoenix Wildcats.
If the Suns had interest
big man.
in drafting Eulis, I would see them trading down. They have a first round pick, right?
Right.
Yeah, I would see them trading down with maybe somebody in the teens, grabbing an established piece or maybe some future draft picks and getting him in the teens. I would think if you really wanted Eulis, I would probably look and try to get that 15th, 16th, somewhere in there pick. That's where I would have him. But
the NBA draft is 85 days away, June the 23rd, 2016, and we will see the NBA draft. Let's talk about coaches. The coaching carousel has not been spinning much this season because, last year it was all over the place. Coaches leaving their teams, going to other places. Really, it's not been spinning a lot, but probably the biggest job that's came open is the Vanderbilt in the SEC, the Vanderbilt University. Kevin Stallings, he left Vanderbilt to now coach in the ACC, a better conference. Terrible hire by Pittsburgh because Kevin Stallings is just absolutely horrible.
Man, see, I'm going to disagree. Vanderbilt is not an ideal job for a coach. Vanderbilt's standards from they're not, let's bring in a one and done to play for a year. Vanderbilt's about academics. That's everything that Vanderbilt is built on. They don't care about, let's go out and, we got to draft, we got to get the best football players, we got to get the best basketball players. They're an academic school. I'm honestly surprised, and I'm ready to see with the coach from Valpo that just signed on with Vandy, but I'm curious to see what he can do because that's got to be a hard job. I mean, you're not going out and recruiting basketball players. You're going out and recruiting,
students who can play basketball.
Yeah, a very good student who's going to come stay for 4 years. Get a good degree, and then also a talent in basketball or football or whatever sport it is. It's just that's got to be a hard job to have. It's not a typical Kentucky or North Carolina to go out and get. A guy that's, not very book savvy and he just wants to stay 1 year, get by, with the lowest GPA he needs to have, and then he's gone. He knows he's gone.
I don't think it was a bad move by Kevin Stallings. I think you misunderstood what I said. I think Kevin Stallings made an absolutely exceptional decision by leaving Vanderbilt and going to Pittsburgh. I mean, it's a better conference. It's a better university. It's be easier to recruit at because of the academic factor there. I think it was a good decision by Kevin Stallings to leave Vanderbilt. I just think it was a terrible decision by Pittsburgh to hire a guy who has coached at a school for 17 years and never made it past the Sweet 16. If you don't have a Sweet 16, if you don't make it into the Sweet 16, you don't have a successful season in college basketball.
That's debatable, but I agree with you on the whole. I don't know if Kevin Stallings is the guy that I would have brought in, especially Kevin Stallings is. I can't imagine the Pitt fans are really excited about that. He's not the kind of guy that would, you'd just be stoked to have at your program. He's just kind of a stability guy. Like, he can recruit within the requirements, like Jordan was talking about. But yeah, I can't see that just being a great move for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, are you a Kevin Stallings fan, Chad?
Mm-mm.
I guess
He's always whining. He reminds me of Bill off of
King of the Hill.
You think he's gonna move the? You think he'll move the benches to the baselines?
I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what he does with that because he's so used to coaching there most of his home games there. But he plays away games and.
I don't know. I got to say, y'all got to mark my word on this. I think he's gonna raise the program, and
you think?
I'd say within 3 years he's gonna have an Elite 18.
That's a big statement. That's a big statement, Jordan. Let's bet on it. Let's bet on it right now. Okay.
Pitt doesn't have. I mean,
April 5th, 2016. Jordan said that Kevin Stallings in 3 years was going to have Pittsburgh in the Elite Eight.
I can definitely, I can see it. They've got a good team as it is. But they do play in the ACC. But you got to think, if they can make it to the tournament, he's not going by the same recruiting, everything that he's had, in Vanderbilt. He's able to go out and, Kevin Stallings' name's known in college basketball. He's been a coach. You've got to be a good coach. I'm sorry, to make it at a Division I school for 17 years at the same school.
I'm not saying he's not a good coach. I'm just not somebody that I would think, if I was running a big program like Pitt, to go out and snag.
Well, let's talk about the guy who Vanderbilt brought in. You mentioned Bryce Drew. He's going to be named or has he been officially named the new head coach at Vanderbilt?
I think so.
He is coming from Valparaiso. Yeah, I'm terrible with.
Where was he before Valparaiso?
He was nowhere. This is his first.
Yeah, the Drew family is kind of like the first family of Valparaiso basketball.
Valparaiso was his first Division I school he coached.
He's been there 5 years,
He was
and
an
he's made it
under his dad.
He made it to 4. He's won the conference championship, regular season conference championship 4 times, and I think he's won the conference championship tournament 4 times.
And they won the NIT this year, right?
No, they made it to the championship game
and then lost to George Washington.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I mean, again, even if it's in a postseason coaching, postseason play, it really will help a coach and a player.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be interesting to see how that goes. But I'd like to see a good coach from. We talked about real college basketball. I'd like to see a coach from a school like Boise State or Morehead State go to a bigger school like Donnie Tyndall did when he left Morehead State and went to Southern Miss and then went on to Tennessee. Unfortunately, he had a little scandal that he had to deal with, and he got fired. But I'd like to see a coach like that crossover. Zach, you and I, we got a chance to travel down to my alma mater. You graduated from UK, but you attended Morehead State for 2 years. That's where I met you. And we got a chance to watch Morehead State play against Nevada in the CBI championship. Being there at that game, watching Morehead State versus Nevada, is it different in your opinion than watching UK versus Florida?
A little bit. I was getting on the little rant earlier about the state of college basketball and stuff like that. It was pretty refreshing to go down there. I know a lot of people give those, I think it's the CBI, and then there's another, 4th tournament. They give them a hard time, but I thought it felt like, just genuine college basketball. We got some great seats for cheap. We're talking about the terrible seats that, if you're sitting up in the rafters in Houston, you can't even see the game. I mean, we got basically courtside seats for a great deal. The people that were there were excited to be there, and just
for-year players.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that to me is kind of like the real college basketball that kind of persists despite the one and done at the big schools.
I agree. Now, before we close out the college basketball podcast for the year, does anyone have anything to add or anything to say before we wrap up college basketball 2016?
It's been fun. It's been a fun run. Even though Kentucky went out early, I still enjoyed doing the podcast. It's a great time to all get together and talk what we enjoy the most.
All I've got to say is it's going to be a long stretch until we get football and basketball back.
Hey man, I'm happy with baseball. Reds started yesterday. We're 1-0, baby. Probably the best
UK
record.
baseball is what, number 12 right now or something?
UK baseball? Are we talking about
ranked,
college?
right?
Ah, man, I don't know. UK college baseball.
They beat the number one team in. Is Florida number one? Well, whoever the number one team in the nation was, they beat them 2 games out of 3 a couple weeks ago.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, I like baseball. I can definitely watch the Reds play for about the first 4 or 5 games of the season, and then just looking at it, 165 games, that's a long season. So I just can't get sucked into it like that. It's nice to have a game or 2 a week to watch, but I'm ready for next year to start.
And we'll be back next year to talk college basketball. And I'd like for you guys to join the podcast a little bit more on some other issues. Off the Cuff is more than just a sports show. We talk politics, we talk current events, and you guys are 3 intelligent minds that I'd like to get your opinions on other stuff as well, because we have a presidential election coming up in 2016. Donald Trump's about to win the presidency. It's going to be awesome. He's going to change America. He's going to make America great again. I know Zach is a Hillary supporter.
I'm not a Trump supporter, I'll put it that way. So, yeah, if you'll have me back on here, I'd love to get on to some other topics with you, maybe about how Trump's not going to win the presidency, but hey, that's your call. It's your show.
Well, guys, thanks for being here. It was awesome, and it was a pleasure doing the show with you. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for listening to the show. I'm Adam Banks. Special thanks to Zach Hahn, Jordan Conaster, and Chad Rainwater.
Thanks for having us again, man. It's a pleasure to be on the show. Always is.
No problem at all. And again, I'm Adam Banks. This is Off the Cuff, and I will see you in the next episode. And the producer screws up always with my music. And there we go. We'll see you next episode.